Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're completely rethinking how we look at information security. Usually when we hear the words cyber threat, our minds jump straight to the technical stuff, right? We picture complex firewalls, intense encryption algorithms, or, hackers in dark hoodies typing frantically in a basement. But the surprising truth? The actual front line of information security isn't made of code at all. It's made of people.
So let me ask you this. Is technology alone really enough to keep an organization secure? The short answer is a resounding no. You can have the absolute most expensive, state-of-the-art security systems in the world, but even the best firewalls are going to fail if the stressed-out, distracted humans inside the network are the ones making the daily operational decisions. Think about it. If an employee is getting crushed by an urgent deadline and clicks a malicious link, or maybe they create an unsafe shortcut because a secure system is just way too confusing to use, technology alone isn't going to save you.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll kick things off with Section 1, the human element, then look at 2 Era's human, dive into the art of manipulation, and cover the insider threat. From there, we pivot to the actionable solutions, cultivating security culture, and finally, measuring real impact. Basically, we're moving logically from the messy reality of everyday human error straight through to building a highly supportive security culture.
All right, Section 1, the human element, why people matter in information security. We really need to understand why people are the absolute core of this. Sure, controls are often designed by brilliant technical specialists, but they're used by ordinary employees, managers, suppliers, HR staff. They are the true frontline defense.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is this quote. Security awareness is not about blaming employees. It is about helping people recognize risk, follow clear procedures, and report concerns early. This right here, this is the core paradigm shift of our entire explainer. We are moving away from a toxic culture of blame and moving toward a culture of support. An organization is literally only resilient when employees are treated as a vital part of the defense rather than the problem.
But to support employees effectively, we kind of need to understand our tools. Look, awareness and training are absolutely not the same thing. Awareness is really about making users recognize their broad responsibilities and spot common risks. Think of it like a quick, catchy campaign reminding staff to report suspicious emails. Training, on the other hand, goes way deeper. It's about building practical, hands-on skills for a very specific role. Like, picture a workshop that actually shows your finance staff exactly how to verify complex payment requests. Both are totally crucial, but they serve entirely different purposes.
Moving right along to Section 2, to err is human, understanding unintentional risks. Let's look at how things actually go wrong in the real world. We really have to frame human error properly here. It's an unintentional action. People don't just wake up deciding to compromise their company's network. It usually happens because they're tired, pressured, or stuck using poorly designed systems.
Let's break down the common types of these unintentional errors. First, we have slips. We've all been there, firing off an email attachment to the wrong person because we were in a rush, right? Then there are mistakes, like genuinely believing a really well-crafted fake invoice is real and just processing it. We also see omissions, which is basically forgetting to do something important, like neglecting to revoke network access when an employee leaves the company. There are misconfigurations in those incredibly complex cloud storage setups, and, of course, unsafe workarounds. This is huge. It's like using your personal Dropbox because the official corporate tool is literally too slow to let you hit a strict deadline. The absolute key takeaway here is that we reduce these errors not by yelling instructions at people, but by simplifying processes, automating routine controls, and actually improving everyday usability.
But what happens when the risk isn't an accident? Let's turn to Section 3, the art of manipulation, how attackers exploit human psychology. This is where things get a bit scary. Malicious actors know all about our fatigue and those usability issues we just talked about, and they actively weaponize our everyday trust.
Which brings us to the concept of social engineering. By definition, it's the use of deception, manipulation, or pressure to influence people into taking unsafe actions. Basically, attackers completely bypass those million-dollar firewalls by exploiting natural human traits. They prey on our innate curiosity, our instinct to be polite, our respect for authority, or even just our fear of getting in trouble. Why spend weeks trying to hack a system when you can just trick a human into handing over the keys?
Phishing is by far the most common flavor of this. Imagine you're a stressed employee trying to clear your inbox, and an email drops. You've got to ask yourself, does it create a sudden, intense sense of urgency? Is there authority pressure? Is it supposedly from your CEO?
Is there an unexpected attachment you weren't waiting for? How about a suspicious link where the display text doesn't actually match the final destination? Are they asking for your secure credentials out of the blue? Or maybe there's a sudden, highly unusual payment request. Being able to rapidly fire off and identify these signs in the heat of the moment is exactly why that practical, role-based training we talked about is so incredibly necessary.
And this brilliantly illustrates another highly psychological tactic: baiting. Baiting is literally just offering something attractive to compromise a system. Think of a pop-up offering a free software download, or, get this, a nicely labeled USB flash drive just left sitting in the company parking lot. It preys directly on our natural human curiosity. The attacker isn't forcing their way in. They just leave the bait and wait for a helpful or curious employee to walk inside and plug it right into their workstation. Wild, right?
Now, let's shift our focus to Section 4, the insider threat, risks from within the organization. Because the reality is, anyone with legitimate access to an organization's systems can become a threat. And again, this can be totally intentional or completely accidental.
We can broadly categorize insiders into 4 main types. First, the accidental insider. Think of a really busy lecturer who accidentally uploads sensitive exam results to a public folder instead of a private one. Oops. Then, the negligent insider. This is someone who generally knows the security rules but repeatedly uses weak passwords anyway, just because it's convenient. Third is the malicious insider, an employee who intentionally steals data or sabotages systems, maybe right before quitting. And finally, the compromised insider. This is a legitimate, well-meaning employee whose account was taken over by an external attacker through, say, a phishing link. It is absolutely vital to understand that a compromised or accidental insider has to be managed very differently than a malicious employee stealing data. You need supportive, blame-free reporting channels for the first 2, but fair disciplinary action and strict access controls for the others.
And that directly sets up our solution in Section 5, cultivating security culture, building a supportive environment. A strong security culture fundamentally treats employees as an active, critical part of the defense mechanism, not as a liability. It's all about building an environment where the secure behavior is actually the easiest path to take.
Let's move to and see how this builds across an employee's time at a company. Security awareness isn't just some boring one-and-done video on day 1. It spans the entire employee life cycle. It starts at onboarding, explaining acceptable use right out of the gate. Then, crucially, at a role change, updating access rights and providing new, specific training for their new duties. Then it continues through ongoing work with friendly refresher simulations all the way to termination, where accounts must be promptly disabled to prevent any insider risk. It's a continuous, living, breathing process.
This continuous support draws a stark contrast. In a weak culture, security is strictly IT's problem. When mistakes inevitably happen, employees hide them out of sheer fear of punishment, which basically just lets attackers roam free. Contrast that with a strong culture, which heavily promotes shared responsibility. Employees feel safe reporting concerns early. In a truly strong culture, a simple design change, like adding a one-click report phishing button right in your email client, drastically reduces risk, simply because it makes doing the right thing effortless for the user.
Finally, we arrive at Section 6, measuring real impact. Moving beyond quiz scores. Because at the end of the day, how do managers actually know if their supportive culture and role-based training are actually working? We have to move way beyond basic multiple-choice quiz scores.
Look, on one hand, we have activity metrics, like the percentage of staff who click their way through an annual training module. Just tracking who completed a quiz is a deeply flawed metric. It shows attendance, it doesn't show improved behavior. We absolutely must pivot to behavior and risk metrics. Are employees actually reporting the phishing simulations we send? Are we seeing a real tangible reduction in compromised accounts quarter over quarter? That is how you measure true behavioral change and understand the real organizational resilience you're building.
So I want to leave you with this final, provocative question. Is your organization just measuring compliance to check a box? Or are you actually changing behavior to reduce real-world risk? It's time to reevaluate our daily security habits. When we finally stop blaming the human element and start actively supporting it with smart design, clear culture, and practical training, the entire organization becomes infinitely more secure. Thanks so much for checking out this explainer, and hey, stay secure out there.